So today is episode 123 of Deep Dives. Dester's going to talk about
Jason Isabell.
Jason Isabell. No idea who that is. I'm going to talk about the Essenes, one of the three sects of Jews, S-E-C-T-S, of Jews in the time of the New Testament and prior to that. So, I don't know. I think it'll be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's usually fun.
Yeah. Those intros are always awkward because, especially at the end, because I don't know how to bring it to an intro to a close. So I end up just stop talking and looking awkwardly at Chris, please change the camera, So, yeah.
You just described exactly why I like the intros.
I
like the awkwardness. I'm kind of thinking, can I bail them out? No, just let them go. Just let it happen. So...
Let him bask in the awkwardness.
Yes. So, consistent intro. Good job, Josh. Starting out, I want to thank Cindy for being here last week. The moment that she was on camera was 5 minutes before me, or 5 minutes after us seeing each other for the first time in about a year. Mm-hmm. So we see each other about once a year, and it was fun. She's a big part of my life, so it was a lot of fun. I want to thank both of y'all, and apologize to Chris because I didn't let him know until the night before that she was going to be here. We knew she was coming, but I didn't get y'all up to date on exactly when she was going to be here. So thanks for getting that ready, Chris, for us. And our studio is fantastic in that most of the time we can come in and just start. But when there's another guest, you got to put on the chair, another mic, another camera,
right,
and get it right and everything. And Chris came in early that morning to make it happen. So thank you, Chris.
Not a problem.
Chris is not on camera today because he didn't do his makeup. He just doesn't feel right. He doesn't feel pretty today, so he's not. He's just getting over being sick, so he's not feeling all that well.
It's an odd change because he usually feels very pretty.
He does. Yeah. He feels pretty. I can't really tell a difference right now how he looks, but he feels pretty there. I guess that's the biggest thing. So let's do an AI segment off the front, okay?
Okay.
Let's do an AI segment off the front, and we are going to have segments. We're working those into the podcast. Cindy and I went over to my brother Philip's house for his 70th birthday last Saturday. And one of the people, there's 40, 50 people there. One of the people there was another favorite person of mine, Jessica, my sister-in-law. So my nephew's wife. And she is a teacher of 7th grade, 5th year this year of her teaching 7th grade. And Jessica's a go-getter, man. She is always voted best teacher of the year, da-da-da-da. She just finished her master's, just got... accepted into a doctoral program. So she is academically gifted. I always love talking to her. So I'm sitting and talking to her. So Jessica, as a teacher, what are you doing with AI? And she had the best answers. Mm-hmm. She answered in a way that I wish I could have written it down and brought it to you. But let me just tell you what I remember. She did something, you know how I've told you before, Josh and Chris, that I like somebody who comes up with, when you think it's just A and B answer, comes up with a C. Yeah. That's, to me, that I'm very attracted to that. That's a great quality to have, right? Mm-hmm. And she came up with a total C that none of us have mentioned.
Okay.
About teachers and AI.
Interesting.
She says, I have them write down the first draft of everything they write. Every essay they write, they literally write it down on a piece of paper. I go through it. I might give it back to them and then correct it. And then it gets to a point where I don't care if they use AI.
Yeah.
Because it's the content that she's grading on.
Right.
I thought, wow, that's a simple, great, wonderful solution.
Yeah.
Because I've always I've heard frequently that kids aren't learning to write anymore. She says,
Correct.
"No, not in my classroom. These seventh graders, man, they know how to write." She's in the gifted. She teaches the gifted program.
That's kind of been a situation I've noticed here in the past couple of years. Well, actually, a couple of years when I was helping out at the game store. Nobody wanted to write anything down on pencil and with paper anymore. Nobody wanted to do it. And they had a tablet with all their gaming information on it. And I was sitting there one day, and they were really harassing me. Oh, look at the old man writing with his quill and pen, because I still put it on paper.
Parchment paper.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, but they were all making fun of me. All of a sudden, the network went down. For 45 minutes, we had no internet.
Right.
I still had a piece of paper.
Yeah, right.
I'm still working. I'm still going. They're sitting there going, we can't do anything. We don't have internet. And that right there proved to me that we've become so dependent on everything that's electronic, and AI is one of them. It's horrible.
Yeah, it is. There was a time I remember distinctly whenever I worked at the church, a time where I thought, I want to see if I can go totally paperless. I remember thinking that. And the next thing I remember thinking on that topic is, I can't find a piece of paper or a pen. You know what I mean? It happened over the years, but it was such a natural progression,
Right.
That it happened before I even knew it. I was delighted to hear her say that she has her students write down on paper.
I'm impressed.
I am too. Aren't you impressed?
Oh,
by
absolutely.
that?
And it's funny you mentioned the legal pads, because just a couple months ago, I made the conscious decision, because I usually take notes on the tablet when I'm out in the field and everything, because I accumulate way too much paper if I don't. And it just starts to pile up everywhere. It gets disorganized. I have a tablet. It's all organized, easy to find, and it only takes up that much room,
Right.
all that kind of stuff. However, I did make the conscious decision, a couple months ago, like, I'm going to get a couple legal pads.
Is that right?
And every now and then I'm going to do my inspections or whatever, my site visits, whatever.
Okay.
With physical pen and paper.
How about that?
Just to keep the tactile memory.
Okay.
And so I don't lose touch with the pen and the paper and all that kind of stuff.
Josh, I'll tell you, I think you're an exception, because the way you do your tablets and everything, you write with it.
Yes.
You write, so it's like you're writing on paper, but you're doing it electronically. It's not like you're typing it in.
Right.
At least what I've seen of your Bible studies and your engineering stuff, you are
it's all
using
handwritten.
that, right? It's all handwritten stuff, and you have such good handwriting. It's all organized to your liking. It's not messy.
I take sermon notes on engineering graph paper.
How about that?
Yeah.
That's good stuff. Anyway,
Because
so
it's funny, the app that I use on my tablet to take notes, I made a background for it that looks exactly like the engineer's paper.
is that right?
Yeah, and so that's what I take all my notes on, whether it's sermon notes, site notes, engineering notes, whatever.
That's just the way you work.
Yes. But when I was an undergrad, I wrote letters to my girlfriend, my wife now. I wrote letters to her on engineering paper.
Funny.
Vertical uppercase engineer's letters,
That's funny.
Well, look at here. Since episode 114,
Yes, you have a
I do production notes.
right.
So if there's a place where I need to pause or cut something, if I can find that, I'll note it,
Right.
and then I'll move them around. But I have been doing that now since 114.
So you don't have a camera on you now. Chris is holding up a notebook.
But it's a physical spiral notebook.
Yep, spiral notebook.
And so I've got episode 123, and I write down the points of significance.
Yep.
But it's there.
So the other thing, I was fascinated by that answer. So I kept asking her, and she probably thinks I interrogate her, but I ask her a lot of questions whenever we're together. I said, so what else do you do with AI? She says, man, I get, she has stations in her classroom. After she does that draft of paper, if they're writing about characters or whatever, she has them go and talk to the characters in AI and get to know some of the characters that way. And I didn't get into how she uses the AI to do that. But she uses the AI, like you said, you do, as a tool,
Right.
not as a replacement for anything, but as a tool in the way that it's supposed to be used. And I was fascinated. It doesn't surprise me that she's going for a doctorate, and she just seems to have that way of wanting to teach, and mentor is a big thing for her. So
it's funny. My wife is like 100% against AI. It's evil. It's the Antichrist. It's like the whole 9 yards. And she doesn't really know my full opinion on it, because every time we get on the topic, she feels very strongly about it, and she'll like interject and end up taking over the conversation. So I've never really gotten a chance to get through my entire what I think about AI. But every now and then I like to just kind of joke about it. Last night, after I got home from church, we were making dinner. I had I put some bacon in the oven, and she's like, she asked me, like, did you put it on 375? I'm like, no, I put it on 400. ChatGPT told me, which isn't true. I didn't say. I didn't.
Oh, you didn't even check.
No, I didn't. I didn't ask ChatGPT what to put the oven on. I just said that just to be funny. And she's
You're
like,
just trying to build your relationship with your wife.
Right, she's like, I'm gonna go put it on 375. I'm like, I'm just kidding. I didn't. She's like, it's fine. Because like she was fine with 400 at first, and then when I joked about that, she's like, I'm putting 375
just to show you and ChatGPT.
Like, I'm just kidding. I didn't check ChatGPT.
Well, we've talked about how we're going to start segregating or specifying what type of AI we're using. Mm-hmm. And I thought this was a great example. Sunday at church, I was getting coffee, and at our church, you get coffee and you can look to your left and see people getting coffee. You look to your right, see people getting coffee, and you end up having conversations with the people beside you. And I was getting coffee. Your back is towards most people. You're just looking at a wall. And Craig, the connections pastor at church, he's the one that I send, him and one other person I send my pictures to. Mm-hmm. And he came up to me and said, Destry, those are nice, great pictures you sent me. Let me ask you something. Is that the picture of the family, is that AI? And there was 20 people around. Mm-hmm. And I thought, that question itself is toxic.
Yeah.
Is it AI? No, they were really there. Mm-hmm. Did I use AI to edit it because there was something a little off and I just wanted to get it clear? Yeah. But as soon as I explained that to him, I said, well, I used AI to edit. And as soon as I said AI, he goes, yeah. He stopped listening. Mm-hmm. Man, this is a highly intelligent person that knows about, he's not ignorant to technology. He uses it himself. He said that. You see, I use that sometimes to do the same thing. But I just thought, wow, as a photographer, because I'm known there I got a huge camera that everybody knows me there as a photographer, and I was very cognizant of how people heard that and how people digested that were around me. Right. I thought, man, anytime AI is mentioned, it's like null and voids everything. Mm-hmm. And I want to get away from that.
But really, if you think about it, your editing, when you go into the Lightroom or whatever, I'm not going to say it's not AI. It's not, because it's taking an image that's already there and either lightening and darkening it. Now, when you start erasing people and things like that, yes. Mm-hmm. But just a basic edit is not AI. Okay, AI is when I take a picture of you and put you on a surfboard out in the middle, but we could do that before AI.
You can do that with Photoshop.
Right.
So
I know it's
weird.
It's worth discussing. Mm-hmm. And I don't like having those discussions in front of people that aren't spending the time that we are discussing it. Mm-hmm. Like I said, even whenever he discovered there was AI involved, I could see in his face he just totally dismissed it. In other words, that might be an okay picture. It was a really good picture. Yeah, it was the full family. And so going forward, I use I use AI sometimes to edit a very, very good picture that I have just to see what it does. Mm-hmm. And many times it makes it more clearer, more clear, makes it more clear, pop a little bit better. Yeah. It does, if I was a better editor, it would do that. I would do that. And I look at it and go, that's a lot better than what I took, and what I had was totally acceptable to anybody, but it just makes the green pop a little bit and the eyes pop a little bit.
Yeah.
Is that the wrong thing to do? I don't think so.
So several weeks ago, when I was sharing the pictures from my grandfather, that old camera where the film had been degraded, but I still got developed, and I was able to use AI to bring out colors that were in the original film but had degraded. One of the things I did in that was not only just have ChatGPT do that, but also give me instructions like what did it actually do? Like, can you you can have it like generate a script to run in Photoshop, or it gives you a step-by-step process. And the reason I did that is because, one, I don't like black boxes where you just stick something in, something comes out the other side, and you have no idea what happened. I like the instructions because I want to be able to do that.
Right.
Like, so I want to know the steps that it took. And so it was able to explain, I applied this filter, I did, this type of thing. And it was able to like instruct me. So I'm not just handing over my brain and saying, do this for me. I don't care.
Right. Right.
And I think that's one of the ways it can be used as a tool, because a lot of engineers, we're starting to use it not to like do things for us, but it's a really good tool. Like if I'm in, the drafting program I use called AutoCAD, and there's a specific thing I need to do, or debug or whatever, I can either Google it and see if someone else has, experienced the same thing and has posted it on like a Reddit or something like that. Or I can ask that question in AI that can read the AutoCAD manual and instruction guides or whatever, and can generate an answer for me, so that now I can go back and I can do the tweaks that I need. It's not editing my drawing, it's teaching me about the software. A lot of engineers are using that because we have to use a bunch of different softwares, and it's hard sometimes to like spend a lot of time searching through the manual of that software to find something that addresses the specific situation we are, and we can use generative AI to do that for us a lot more quickly.
And you know enough about what the answer should be to be able to tell if it's correct or not.
Right.
Because we admit that it's certainly not always correct.
Right.
So taking it at its word is not the smartest thing to do. But
100%, yeah. And in fact, whenever I am using it like as a research tool, I don't take its word for face value. I treat it kind of like Wikipedia, right? You're reading Wikipedia, but if you're doing it the right way, you go down to the sources that it cites, and you go to those sources to verify that whoever created this summary that is a Wikipedia article was true to the source. It's the same way with AI.
Gotcha.
You never take it at face value.
Right.
You confirm the facts.
Right. Okay, I'm going to cut us off right there.
Okay.
For AI. Chris, anything else with AI?
Something I've been getting. I have a friend of mine. He has more doctorate degrees than you can name. He's got 9 or 10, honestly.
Wow.
He's UWF archaeology here, there, but that's what he really loves is the archaeology side. Well, what he does, he sends me all these new LiDAR satellite images where they're going around and they're finding old, like, Indian villages or Spanish this or this fort was here, but we didn't know it was here. It's on the corner of this river somewhere. He sends me all these really cool images of all this stuff. That's a technology that's kind of cool, and again, then the AI then basically assumes over for some of the LiDAR, and it puts stuff in.
I see.
And so he's not opposed to the AI because it does help them in research, because then they'll go out there and start digging, and yes, there is a wall there, So
yeah,
I think it's kind of cool, but it's like they say, too much of a good thing can be bad.
We just have to
And that's
proceed
exactly
with
where
caution.
we're at.
We have to proceed with caution.
Yeah.
Sautéing a steak with a little garlic is delicious.
Yes.
Taking a bite out of a bulb of garlic is not that
not
great.
recommended.
Not so much. There you go. Okay.
Can burn a hole in your intestine.
All right. We'll conclude that segment with that wonderful thought. Okay. So, what have I been listening to? I talked a little bit not long ago about feeling a grunge thing coming on, and I have been listening to Alice in Chains. Alice in Chains is such a unique. There's such a unique voice in this dude. I don't know what his name is, but it's old '90s grunge music.
Now you're getting into stuff my wife likes.
She likes the grunge.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, this is, even if you don't like grunge, this type of grunge was on the radio. Mm-hmm. Alice in Chains was on the radio, the top 10, probably even number 1, 3 or 4 different songs. I've been listening to that quite a bit. Anytime I say I've been listening to something, you can always put in there, and Grateful Dead, and Linda Ronstadt, and stuff from the 70s. That's just a given during the week, right? That's it, because I drive a lot. That's a given during the week. What I'm intentionally listening to is this, and I may talk about them in a while, but I've also watched several documentaries. One is about this guy, Jason. I think it's Isabell or Isabell. I don't know. Isabell. What's the name of the girl that's in here? The voice. Siri.
Oh yeah.
Siri.
I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about.
She pronounces it Isabell, and it's pronounced the way it's spelled that way. So. This guy
Hiding people in your phone again.
Yeah, I'm hiding people in my phone. This guy was with the Drive-By Truckers, and the Drive-By Truckers were a band and are a band that is more known for being live, and they never really hit it huge. This is the words of one of the band members. We never really hit it huge as being in, having 20 number ones, but they have a loyal cult following. Cult was my word. They have a loyal following. No matter where they go, they're gonna, they'll fill up small rooms, right? Because Drive-By Truckers, you got to hear them, and they all go. And it's funny, even whenever at their peak, you can watch some video of them, and they're in a corner of like a warehouse. It looks like a garage band or something, but it's all filled up, and they're playing. They're really good. But man, they were, good gosh, they drank and smoked and did drugs hardcore, according to them on this documentary, and according to the video. They'd have a fifth of Jack Daniels, 2 or 3 fifths of Jack Daniels. They were chugging the Jack Daniels and passing it on to the next person, and they were chugging it. It didn't appear that anybody was immune. Everybody was really on board with the way that they were acting. They're all young. They were making some money. I'm not passing judgment. I've been there. But whenever people hold you up to a certain degree, they start bringing you that stuff. You know what I mean? When I was a kid doing that stuff, I had to go out and search for it, get it. Sometimes I couldn't find it. I was never addicted, but I probably would have been if people were bringing it to me.
Right.
Not having to go out to get anything. So I'm just thankful. And Cindy, my cousin, was in the same situation. We're both thankful that we never became addicted to that type of behavior. We behaved that way, but we also came out of that way. By the grace of God, we both came out of that. Unfortunately, he didn't. Jason Isbell was such a drunk that the drunk Drive-By Truckers kicked him out of the band.
Oh, wow.
Now, I want you to think about that. You're the drunk of the drunks.
Right.
He was becoming dangerous. He was so drunk. That's bad. He was not, and they all loved him. That's the thing, this documentary just, look, man, it wasn't anything personal. We loved this guy. He was a great He is a great musician. He wrote all of his stuff. He wrote a lot of the drive-by trucker stuff, but he was toxic, and he became dangerous. And the second he became dangerous, they started looking at him going, it's not worth, there's several football players that were so gifted and so talented, and they delivered so much, but they could only get 1-year contracts because they were so toxic to the team that it wasn't worth the toxicity that he brought to the coaches and to the locker room. But he was, this person was so gifted. At least give him a shot. Give him a shot for a year. They'd go 1 year here, 1 year here, 1 year there. That's why.
Yeah.
Because they're so toxic. And he was kind of the same way. He tried really hard to get sober for his first wife, who was in the band also, Drive-By Truckers. It didn't work. And then he went out on his own, and I think she actually joined the Drive-By Trucker. I don't know exactly how it went, but a lady, and forgive me, I don't remember her name. She had her own career as a musician, as a fiddle player. She joined him, and now it's Jason Isabell band. She joined him, and he was still drinking at the time, and she said, "That's who you are. Okay, I still love you." But according to the documentary, in his words, he came to the conclusion she's not going to put up with this for very long.
Yeah.
And he went to her and said, "I think I need some help drinking." Guys, this is years and years and years and years. He was a drunkard for like 15 years, right? 10 years, however long. He was a young man, but he was drinking as a teenager, and he was in his 20s whenever he finally got help. So he went to his wife, his wife then, and said, "I need help," and so she helped him get into a rehab place. Somewhere along the line, it took. So as of this documentary, he's been sober for 7 years. Awesome, right? Fantastic. But what I've learned, and just knowing some people that are, I'll say just in that world, that are addicts but are recovered addicts, either drugs or drinking, it's always right there. You know what I mean? It's always a struggle. I just want to be sober for one more day. And that, if you think about that encompasses your entire life. And if you've got somebody that is as talented and gifted and driven as he is to make music, it's obviously going to be in his music, right? And not only that, but he was already a guy. He was unique in this way, much like people from the 70s. Singer-songwriter is how I would describe him. He's writing things about his life at that time. Those are his words. He said he even put out, him and his wife put out an album. They dropped an album during COVID because he didn't want to wait till COVID was over, because that might not be his life then, he said. I want to drop albums as they are in my life right now. Being a gifted writer and an educated writer, him and his wife both, I think, have master's degrees in creative writing. My gosh, you get these people together that are creative and they're talented in music, you're going to get something. And you certainly did with them. He was also a poet, and man, the music doesn't get in the way of his poetry. He uses pen and paper. Scratch it out. No. And there was a segment of the documentary where his wife was sitting there with him, and they were discussing the correct participle to use, the correct verbiage to use. They're not just writing stuff down, they are using the correct everything, right? And they were actually getting to argument about using the word to or something else, so minute, but yet it just seems to be, writing this on paper and scratching it out. They had a 15-minute discussion on what correct adverb to use or something. You know what I mean? That's not correct. If you're doing that, you're referring back to the hotel room, not the person.
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought, wow, that's pretty impressive. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's pretty impressive to be that particular about your lyrics that you want to portray that excellence. So you take that and you put it towards the musicianship and everything, and that's who you've got. Like I said, during COVID, the video they were doing the documentary, and what I found really dark about this whole thing.
So he stopped drinking shortly before COVID.
I think it was longer than it looked like on the video on the documentary.
Was it the documentary a couple years old?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Documentary's
Gotcha.
a couple years old. Yep. Documentary ended recording, I think, just when COVID got under control. I should have said at the beginning with. What I found, here's are some of the things that they were saying, both of them were saying independent from each other, is that during COVID, they weren't able to be with their band. They weren't able to. They were able to create music, but they weren't able to be on stage creating music. In different words, they both said, "Without that, I don't know who I am. Without that, I don't have any identity."
You know what's interesting? So I've found like more and more lately when you ask people like about their testimony or like how they came to Christ or whatever, I'm hearing more and more that COVID played a huge role in that.
Is that right?
Yeah. You know, I do. I get together with some guys on Saturday nights, and it's just kind of like we talk about philosophy or Bible, or the only rule is none of us are allowed to talk about work, and
that's a good rule,
right? And just this past Saturday, it happened again. Someone new came to the group, and we're there talking about Bible stuff or whatever, and so they heard what we were talking about and came over and sat down because they were interested in the topic, and so we invited them over and started talking to them like, what do you do, and introduced ourselves, and they started telling us about how they came to faith, and here again it was like during COVID. When we weren't allowed to be around other people, and it was just kind of this time of depression, and I was forced to kind of look inward, and I hear that kind of stuff all the time now. How COVID really affected people on a spiritual way, and I think is because it forced everyone to strip away all the stuff that's distracting us, like being in a band or being at work around other people all the time, or whatever. It's just like now I'm alone with my thoughts. Well, where's that going?
Right. Yes.
Who am I?
Right.
And a lot of people ended up turning to faith because of that.
Well, I tell you, I'd give anything for that to be the case for these two.
Yeah.
It wasn't the case for these two. That's what made it so dark and depressing. They were saying, I don't know who I am. And now keep in mind also, they have a little daughter, a beautiful little girl. And for you to sit on camera, and maybe they misspoke, but what they were both saying, more him than her, I don't know who I am without, your fatherhood doesn't identify you, even if you're not going to say Christ identify you. Your fatherhood, your work is more important than your. But let me say this, before there's any gap in between what I just said and what I'm going to say next. There was video of him seeing his daughter in the studio while they're doing the recording, and the way that those two are interacting, it reminded me of how Christ wants to put his arms around us and hold us and tell us how much he loves us. There was no doubt in my mind. There can't be any doubt in anybody's mind that he adores that little girl.
Right.
I love you. They were saying, I love you. I'm going to be your best friend. They were whispering and the mic was close enough. I'm going to be your BFF forever and ever. And she was saying, Daddy, are you going to play? And she named two of her favorite songs. He said, I'll always play that as long as you want me to play those songs on stage. I'm always going to play those songs. It was such a love story. And I don't know how, like I said, maybe if he were to think about it, he would restate that. But to say that you don't know who you are without the music, that broke my heart.
Yeah.
You know. Anyway, I hope he saw that.
Maybe that was meant on a professional
level. Maybe so, but he said some other things that backed it up. You know what I mean? Okay. And he would say, "Look, my family is important to me, but my band is important to me too." Like they were, kind of equal. And God is nowhere.
Yeah.
Now come to find, he grew up in a very quote religious environment. I think that kicked him off. I don't know what happened to him. They didn't go into that deeply. And that started making me think, I wonder how many people reject God now because of the way it was either presented or the way it was perceived.
Yes.
The way he was presented or he was perceived. And I wonder how many people reject him. And for sure, he's got a hold of that. Look, we don't have to figure that out. He's got it under control. But in my human, mortal mind, I can't help but think that, But anyway. So
I wonder why that is. I often wonder, in those cases where someone was raised in a religious home and then drifted away from it, that they look back and sort of say the reasons why, but it always seems like the version of religion or Christianity or whatever that they were exposed to was kind of the very surface level kind of belief system that works well when everything's going well. But I often find it's when unexpected bad things happen, that's when their faith starts to take a hit. And I understand that because I've been through the same thing. But I think when you're presented with a Christianity that's not capable of facing bad situations, that's when people consider leaving it. Because it's like, well, this is great if everything is great, but the moment something turns bad, lose someone that I love, or something like that. This doesn't appear to help me in that circumstance, and that's sad because it does have a tremendous ability to help you resolve difficult issues like that. But if you're never presented with that capability, then when times get bad, it's like people seek out something that either helps them or gives the appearance of help.
I gotta say, I'm so thankful that whenever stuff like that happens to me or me and my wife, we sink more deeply into our faith. I just can't be more thankful for that. Right? I mean, my gosh, I don't know how we would have made it through open heart surgery without having our deep faith. Yeah. How we'd make it through a lot of the other stuff we've made it through without having our deep faith. Asking the question, why is this going on? I guess I've done that before, but I'm bragging. I'm just thankful that I never got hung up on that. And was it because of the way a relationship with Christ was presented to me? It seems to me a lot of the friends that I've spoken to, especially way long time ago, people have put Christ aside because they didn't get what they prayed for. Right. I think if there's one thing that I had to say, what have you heard in your life, Destry, the reason? That has to be it, and it had a lot to do with losing somebody. I prayed for their healing, and I didn't get their healing, so I don't believe anymore.
Yeah, I remember years ago when there are circumstances in my life that made my faith take a hit. I did go the other direction, and it was like, what I expected out of life because I was quote unquote doing the right thing and towing the line, everything ended up not happening. It was like, this is what I think logically should be true. And it didn't happen that way. And so my entire foundation was rocked. And so for a time I went the other direction. It's like, okay, this must not be true. But going the other direction, there was absolutely nothing there to account for anything, let alone deal with anything. And so, and I've shared part of this testimony before. The way God has the ability to get in touch with you and grab your attention, it is extremely interesting to me, because the way he got my attention is unique to anyone else.
Math.
Right, math. I was
How about that, Chris?
I was taking a graduate course in applied statistics, and a proof we were going through was the mathematical equivalent of what I was struggling with in a spiritual sense.
That blows my mind.
And in that class, God grabbed my attention, and and that was a time where it's like I wasn't interested in what the Bible had to say about anything. I wasn't interested in what God had to say, or anything like that. But but I still was an engineer, and I was a math guy, and that's what I was holding on to, because that was the only thing in my life that had any sort of stability or made any sort of sense.
Right.
And God used that to bring me back to Him. And so, having gone the other direction, ideologically, bouncing off of that emptiness and coming back. Now, when something bad happens, I go deeper into my faith, because that's the only thing I've found that does have the ability and the power to deal with those types of things.
So you just described where I think Jason Isabell and his wife are. There's nothing there.
Yeah.
Right? For whatever reason, there's nothing there, and they did everything but say that.
Right. Well, think about what you mentioned earlier about how when he was in the thick of it with all of his drinking and stuff, like the world just kept bringing that to him.
Yeah.
Like it's almost like the secular component of our existence wants us to be weak, and wants us to give into not the weaknesses like that bring us humility, but the weaknesses that destroy us. And it'll just keep bringing those to us. And it will disguise it in a way that makes us think like, the only way I can get through this is if I drink.
Right.
It gives us that artificial tool that makes us think it's dealing with something when it's really just making the problem worse.
Add to that the physical part of the addiction.
Right.
Right. Add to that. So even if you got your head on straight, you become chemically, physically addicted to this stuff.
Right.
I'm gonna drink more coffee. But anyway, I wasn't planning on talking about this, but it reminds me of somebody like Alice Cooper, who we should have the utmost respect for, because he has gone through both sides and led a life from the beginning that was full of addiction and drinking, and he got sober, found Christ, went back on the road, and never looked back.
Right.
What a testimony. Somebody should talk about Alice Cooper on this podcast. I think that'd be very interesting, Chris.
I've actually met him.
Have you met Alice Cooper? Well, we're going to talk about him then. Don't tell us anything about it. I want you to tell us about that. Every time I see him, I think, man, good for you, dude.
Right.
What a great testimony.
You know what stinks a lot of times? As Christians, we'll see a person like that who lived a degenerate life and then came to Christ. We'll now look at that person and we'll nitpick every wrong thing he does now. Like,
sure.
I thought you were converted.
You're not perfect.
We do that to I see a lot of people doing that to Russell Brand.
Is that right?
Yeah. I have no idea what his personal story is other than he was in this world and then now he's in this world. And so like, if he is, someone who has come to Christ, he's a young Christian, but he happens to be going through this journey in front of the entire world.
I'm glad cameras don't follow me around.
100%.
That's all I'm saying. I've said that so many times.
And so, we're the entire world is watching him on this journey of being a young a young convert to Christianity and trying to figure all this out.
Right.
And we just expect, well, you're in the public eye.
Yeah.
Everything you do should be perfect. No, he's a human.
And I think we take that and expand it to every person that claims Christ.
Right.
From the outside world, nobody said we're ever perfect. That's the whole part of why we need Christ. That's the whole point of why we need Christ. But we do need to be cognizant of how we present ourselves because
Well, if
of
you
that.
think about it nowadays, though, there are cameras everywhere.
Yeah,
it's
right.
almost like we're in a mini Truman's world.
Oh my gosh,
You know,
it's
where
true.
they may not catch us brushing our teeth or whatever, but you go to Home Depot or you go to Walmart, or you go, somebody's got a camera phone
Yeah,
out
yeah,
and they're
yeah,
doing
yeah.
something, and you don't know whether you're being observed or
Right.
not observed. So yeah,
true.
you don't know. You have to keep yourself calm.
Yeah.
I have a hard time keeping myself calm when people are stupid. I really do. I mean,
When we're around stupid people, I totally get it. Well, anyway.
I think we've been mentally groomed into a police state because all from a kid we've been singing those songs. He knows when you're sleeping. He knows when you're awake. He knows when you're bad or good. So what? Be good for goodness
That's
sake.
right.
yeah.
That's right.
Now it's Big Brother knows when you're sleeping. He knows when you're awake.
Well, I would suggest that you guys look this guy up. He's a great musician, guitarist, old school singer, songwriter. And after the documentary was over, it ended with his wife playing the fiddle, and him playing guitar and singing to an empty. Where's that opera house in Nashville? What's it called?
Grand Ole Opry House.
I think they're in the Grand Ole Opry. No audience. They had planned before COVID to do this album release and this concert, and they went ahead and did it with nobody there, but the cameras were still there. I admire that.
So are you in a grunge phase now? Are you going to do Nirvana, and Soundgarden, and Pearl Jam, and all them?
No, I'm still sprinkling grunge in there because
Okay.
I have somebody next week I want to talk about that I just allowed myself to discover this week. I'm not discovering anybody because of AI, but I discovered a very old video. I'll send it to y'all, and if either one of you tell me it's AI, I'm going to come to where you are. I'm going to cry. Okay, but it's not. I did some more research.
That's
It's
no
not.
fun if you'll come over and cry. I can't beat you with a gun.
This guy plays the guitar in a different way. Okay, but yeah, he plays the guitar in a different way. I love that. Did that capture your attention? That sounded like clickbait, didn't it? His name is Phil Keaggy.
Oh, I know him.
You know him?
Yeah.
Okay, you?
I have no clue.
Okay, good. We want to introduce Phil Keaggy to you and our listeners next week. He's been around for a long time.
Yep.
He looks totally different in different videos. He might have a long, and I mean a long, gray beard, mustache, gray hair, or he might be clean shaven with a little darker hair whenever he was younger. So he looks totally different sometimes. But he I think he's 70-something years old. Did you look it up?
Yeah, he's 75 years old.
75 years old. I don't know how else to say it, except for he plays the guitar different than anybody I've ever seen.
Yeah.
You agree with that, kinda?
Yeah, he's real big in the Christian contemporary world, too. I grew up listening to stuff that he did.
Very good. Still amazes me that as much communication as we have, and as much as I'm into music, I still discover people. Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
I discovered him this week by accident whenever I was just looking through. I'm like, this guy, well, all right. And I started listening to him. Anyway, so we're going to talk about him next week. And I'll end this about the guy that what was his name again? Jason Isabell. After the video, or after the documentary, they ended in that concert, and I was just curious because of the way he and his wife were talking. Now, they never raised their voice on camera, of course. They appeared to have good discussions, good, honest. You can tell they've been in therapy, you know what I mean, with each other because they were talking. That makes me feel, anytime you see a couple doing that, a lot of times they've been to therapy. That's the way you learn how to talk in therapy.
Yeah.
That makes me feel, and there's some other buzzwords that you can use that are good. I like them. They had discussions like that on film, and you could tell they're kind of sideways with each other. And like I've said before, off not when they were separate and being interviewed separately, he would talk about divorce, how it was an option. And again, the video made it look like that was one of the first options. I'm not saying that's the truth,
Right.
but that's just the way it looked, you know. Yeah, we were close to getting divorced last night. You got a little girl. What can be so? Anyway, and I had to look it up, and they ended up getting a divorce. Man, that honestly, because I get invested in the people that I'm watching. You know, this was an hour and a half, almost 2 hour documentary. I get invested in them, and finding out, especially when they have a little baby, you know, that he was wrapping his arm around, I love you so much, and they get divorced. Man, it really, I felt it. It just broke my heart. Knowing that is one of so many, 50% of people get divorced. You know?
Yeah.
But they did. But that doesn't take away from the subject of this conversation. He's going to be writing about that, right? That's what he writes about. So he puts out. He's pretty prolific on putting out albums. I would suggest that everybody look him up and buy the CD or downloads or whatever. Very, very good. Very good.
I think that's part of a problem that we have going on. Like you said, you get invested in. Well, you know, there's several YouTubers that I've followed that have gotten either divorced, like Tony and Chelsea Northrup. I mean, that just shocks
It's
me.
hard.
I mean,
I felt that.
Yeah, I felt that one too because they were, you know. But then there's other ones. You know, they were together. They were making a YouTube channel, and it was a wonderful channel or whatever. And then boom, gone.
Yeah.
And it's like you don't know why, but you get invested in people.
Yeah, you do.
And that's the sad part of things.
I since you told me that they were getting divorced, I started watching each of their videos, and it's been a couple of months since you said that, and not, to my knowledge, there hasn't been one video of them together
And
since then.
Well, he's
And that's
still using
unusual.
the Chelsea and Tony Northrup.
Okay.
And she has come out with her own channel, which is it's Chelsea Northrup, another last name. I can't remember which one it is. They're still posting. They still, I guess, work within the same realm, but I don't know that it's.
Or they're business partners. They're still business
They're
partners.
still business. It's
but
kind of
not
like
married.
Desi and
Well, that's gotta
Lucy
be hard.
Arnaz.
Yeah,
You know, they run, even though they got divorced, they still held together with the studio.
They
It was a
have,
multi-billion-dollar business, you know,
Sure.
but
a lot of people.
when you
depend
start
on
seeing
it.
a YouTuber, he's gone out, you know, and he gets married or whatever. One of the guys I follow is actually Rob Arrington's brother, and he was dating a girl, and they separated, which was kind of like, you know, and then he was with this other girl. They separated, they got back together. Now they've had a baby, but you know, you just wonder when is something going to happen, and that's why I don't want to get involved in these people.
Yeah. Well, all right, guys. That's all I want to talk about in that segment, and we're gonna talk a little bit. Josh, last night was so cool. That was a great talking about Dead Sea Scrolls.
Yes.
And how we know how we can be certain, or it can increase our certainty that what we're reading now in the current Bible is really what God had intended, and how that how the steps were taken to make sure that was happening. And the old-fashioned way of fact-checking, perhaps, right?
Yep.
I think everybody was really enjoying that last night.
Yep. Yeah, it's when we started talking about it last night, I kind of geeked out for a little bit on genetic testing stuff, because there's a lot of similarities between questions that we had in genetic research and questions that we have about like the integrity of the texts that we use to make a lot of the translations. And like Chris, you're a history guy. You remember the Romanovs, right? Executed by the Bolsheviks in like 1910s or
They were
late 1910s, I think.
No, it was right during the middle of World War One.
Oh yeah, so like
like 1916, I think 17.
right around there. the Romanovs were executed by the Bolsheviks,
Right.
and
Which pulled Russia out of World War One.
right. And so, set that aside for a moment. In genetics, one of the questions that a lot of people were researching and struggling with was how does DNA degrade over generations? And in our cells we have two different sets of DNA. One's the DNA that comes from both parents. That you take a little bit from the dad, a little bit from the mom, put it together, you get the kid with its own traits that are inherited. But another part of the cell is this little bitty, quote unquote, device called the mitochondria. It's like the energy producing part of the cell, and it has its own DNA that isn't made by combining the DNA of the parents. It's passed on from the mom each time. And so theoretically, since it's never combined, we should all have the same mitochondrial DNA. But we don't, because over time it degrades. Well, the question was, what is the rate of that decay? Subtle changes just because it's being copied over and over again. Well, that question had largely been unanswered because we need someone from a long time ago that has still viable genetic material that can be analyzed. Well, lo and behold, we discover the graves of the Romanovs from the early 1900s. And so we have something that's several generations removed from us where we can analyze their still viable genetic material and compare it to ours today. And so it gave us, it like revolutionized our knowledge about this particular concept in genetics, is how this degrades over time and what that rate is. And it's a similar question that we had in a totally different area of study when it comes to the integrity of Scripture. We're several thousand years removed from the original documents, like when Moses came down from Mount Sinai and started, penning the words, to the law and those books of the Bible. Then when the prophets were writing theirs and all this stuff, like we're several thousand years removed from that. So how do we know that the Hebrew documents of the Old Testament that we still have access to today, how accurate are they with respect to the original documents? And it used to be that the earliest we could go back was 900 AD. And we talked about that last week with the Masoretic text. Well, just so happens in the mid 1900s, 1947, 1954, right around there, there's some caves over by the Dead Sea, about 9 miles south of Jericho. And guy happened to be chasing his goat, threw a rock into a cave to try to chase the goat out, heard a clink, went in and found all these clay jars that housed just an entire library of scrolls dating back to like 250 BC, right around there. And pushed back when they started analyzing them. All of the books of the Old Testament were there, except Esther, but all the other books were there. And it pushed back the oldest copy of Scripture that we had almost 1,000 years. Well, over 1,000 years, because before that it was 900 and went all the way to 250 BC. So, over 1,000 years it pushed back. And so we had, all of a sudden, we have this really, really old copy and more current copies that spanned 1,000 years, and we were able to compare them and see there have been changes, but they're very minute changes. They're like someone crossed a T instead of, dotted an I or something like that. Nothing that significantly changes the meaning of the text. There's a couple extra verses in like Jeremiah, the Masoretic text that we talked about last week was a little bit more wordy, but really no new content, compared to these Dead Sea Scrolls. Most of the variations between what we already had was like spelling and grammar. which makes sense because the Masoretes formalized how copies were made and how you transition between a written text and a spoken language and all that kind of stuff. So it was really cool to see that the integrity of Scripture has really been maintained over all of those different generations. And so we also talked about the group of people who are responsible for the Dead Sea Scrolls, and Josephus talks about them. Another Jewish philosopher named Philo of Alexandria. I remember when we were talking about the Septuagint and how there was during the days of Jeremiah, a bunch of Jews fled from the Babylonians coming and attacking. They fled down to Egypt, and they brought Jeremiah with them. And you start to see the growth of these Jewish communities in Egypt. Alexandria is one of the largest ones, and during the Hellenistic time, there's a guy named Philo of Alexandria who was a Jewish philosopher. He wrote a bunch of information about this sect of Jews called the Essenes. So Philo and Josephus wrote a bunch about him and compared, like, there were the Pharisees, there were the Sadducees, and then there are the Essenes. And we encounter the Pharisees and Sadducees a lot in the New Testament, but we don't really hear about the Essenes. And that was mainly because the Essenes weren't in Jerusalem. They saw the Pharisees as, like, you're kind of liberal, we're like super spiritual and super religious. We're leaving Jerusalem and we're going to go out in the desert and do religion in hard mode and expert mode.
Boy,
and
Pharisees as being liberal, that's an extreme position.
Yeah, and so that's why we don't really encounter the Essenes in the New Testament, because they just weren't around. They were down in the desert near the Dead Sea in a place called Qumran. And so these Dead Sea Scrolls that we encounter, it was a whole library of documents that were important to them at the time. So there was, the text of the Old Testament. There were additional scrolls that were like worship hymns. There were rules for how their community operated, because it was kind of like a commune. They didn't have like rich people and poor people. It's just everybody shared everything. They were given to husbandry, so like they were into agriculture, farming, things like that, and they lived as this group that they, weren't really. They didn't like to get married because it tended towards like domestic disputes. Now they did get married, but it was mainly just for purposes of procreation. They didn't have servants because they said it tempted men to be unjust. All these things, but they also, in this library of scrolls, they also had additional things like the apocryphal books were in there, the like pseudepigraphical books like Enoch and the Book of Giants was in there. They also wrote a bunch of extra stuff like expounding on accounts in Genesis. They wrote a lot of apocalyptic works. A lot of people kind of like equate it with fan fiction. It wasn't scripture. It was like their additional commentary on those things. And so, Dead Sea Scrolls is a large body of works that goes farther than just the Old Testament books. But those Old Testament books that we have, it was strikingly similar to the newer yet oldest manuscripts we had up until that point. So it's kind of neat to see that the integrity of Scripture has been maintained throughout all those copies, and even in those places where there was minute changes, it's not something like we figured out something like that was hidden before, like, Jesus was actually married, or something like that. Nothing that changes theology or shows us some significant thing about the Bible was changed because of some conspiracy. It confirmed what we really needed it to confirm, which was we can trust the scripture that we have today as being very close to the original works. And so that's the main importance of the Dead Sea Scrolls right there, is establishing that fact.
What was you said that there was something that was written on copper?
Oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah, there was one copper scroll in there that was like a treasure map.
Treasure map. That's
yeah,
right.
It gives like describes a series of landmarks and supposedly can guide whoever knows what those landmarks are to places where there's buried gold or whatever. And people have tried to track those down, but something that was written that old ago, that long ago, those landmarks probably don't exist in the same way that they did.
Right.
And so nobody's ever been able to find anything, but it is kind of neat to think about.
Right. Yeah, convenience store down on the right, then take a left. That convenience store is probably not there anymore.
Right.
It's probably a pickleball court or something like that.
Yeah.
A camel on the right.
Go to this one sand dune and turn left and go 60 paces.
You'll see a goat herder. Tell him you know me.
That dune has moved. The size of a pace has changed over a thousand years.
No way you're gonna find that gold. That's funny. What was the other stuff written on? And
papyrus and skins, things like that. Yeah.
And they were literally rolled up.
Yes, rolled up and put into clay pots and sealed.
Okay.
Like they were intended to be, stored away for all prosperity.
Gotcha.
Posterity.
Posterity.
Yeah.
Where is any of that on display now?
Yeah, a lot of them are display in various museums in the world. In Jerusalem, there's some of the Dead Sea Scrolls that sort of travel around. They were in Mobile a couple years ago. Right down the road from us.
Did you go see it?
No, I didn't. I never got a chance to. I think I learned about it after they had already left.
Okay.
But
that's something you'd think would
I
be
didn't
on the
even remember
news.
hearing it being announced.
Right.
Me either.
Yeah.
Maybe that's by design because some jackwagon is going to go down here and try to steal it or something, right?
Or blow it up, or who knows?
Right. It just kind of sneaks into town.
Yeah. So
hey, I got the Dead Sea Scrolls. You want to come see Dead Sea Scrolls? $15.
I think they've been at the library, Library of the Bible, Museum of the Bible in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
I think they've been there before. So, yeah, they're a couple different places.
Okay.
Because there is a bunch of scrolls. I don't think they're all in one place.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. That's big. That's really cool. It makes you wonder, what did that goat herder think he found? Or if he knew what it was, what did he do? Who did he, he whipped out his cell phone and went, hey, 911, I got something here that's valuable.
Yeah.
What did he do?
It's interesting how many significant archaeological finds are found by just some random person by accident. Like, a couple of weeks ago we were talking about these clay tablets that were like the communiques between the Canaanite cities when Israel was going through the book of Joshua and conquering everyone. And these clay tablets were letters written to Egypt asking for reinforcements. They're called the Amarna letters because they were stored in an ancient city in Egypt called Amarna. Well, there was, I think the account was there was a lady who was digging up stuff that she could use to burn in her stove to make bread or whatever, and happened to unearth a tablet, this little clay tablet that had ancient cuneiform Akkadian writing on it. And she called someone, and they found an entire ancient library, because this used to be one of the administrative capitals of Egypt.
Everybody stop!
Right, there's hundreds of these things, and
put up barriers.
Yeah, and
That's what happens.
They're just digging them up,
Wow.
and dramatically increasing their knowledge of ancient Egypt and the
Crazy.
Mediterranean world, the Middle East at that time, because some lady was looking for stuff to burn in her stove.
That's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
It reminds me of very differently of some of the crime shows you can watch, and hunters are out there and they find a skeleton of a person who's been missing for 20 years.
Right.
They're just out there rabbit hunting. They find something.
Yep.
It's just the world is so vast.
That happened to a friend of mine here in Pensacola.
Is that right?
Yeah, they were. He was leading a Boy Scout troop, and they were doing some community service, like helping clean up an old building, whatever. And they were pulling a bunch of junk out from underneath it, and there was a human skeleton there.
Oh my gosh!
It made the news.
Woo, that'll stop you in your tracks.
Yep.
Good gracious! Wow.
What's the friend of mine that I just talked about earlier was the archaeologist. He was involved in the whole stuff over there on Scenic Heights, where they were digging up all the original Spanish stuff.
Yeah.
He said they would just go in. Your yard has been selected. They would just dig up a chunk of somebody's backyard or front yard or whatever.
Right.
They had to go back and restore it.
Yeah.
But they would find, you had an armored cuirass down here. You had this, you had this, and you had
Yeah.
this. And,
Wow.
they would go in, dig everything they could out of that spot, and then refill it. But it was, he says, he showed me all this stuff that they found, and I was like,
Wow.
okay, there was a lot more stuff
I had
left.
a project site once that ended up. There's old Native American pottery shards on the property.
Everything just stopped.
Yep.
Did that stop everything?
It absolutely did.
Wow.
And we had to get letters from archaeology department, UWF, and all that stuff.
Wow. Interesting.
Fortunately, it's a very minor site, so
Yeah.
there wasn't much to make an active construction site again.
But I guess they know it's minor or major until they start getting in there and
Right.
uncovering stuff, right?
Yeah.
Interesting. All right, guys. We'll probably get right at an hour now, probably a little bit over.
Yep.
Over an hour. Okay. All right. Chris, anything else?
I'm good.
All right, man. Hope you start feeling better.
Hopefully will.
Okay. So you got your little camouflage parka on there. That's good.
I'm cold.
Thanks, Josh.
Where'd you go?
I appreciate it.
Yep.
Anything else before we go?
I'm good.
All right. Sounds good. All right. Sounds good. Don, I love you. And we'll see everybody next week for episode 124. Talk to y'all later. Bye.